and a very, very good Friday afternoon to you. I hope I find you very well. On what has to be said, it has to be said, so I'm going to say it. A beautiful day here in Manchester. Yes, you heard me right. No rain. No rain. It's not cold. Blue sky. Some form of mysterious yellow ball in the sky. I don't understand. And it's warm. Could it be that thing, what's it called? Summer? Maybe? I don't know. What I want to talk about today is, well, you've seen the title. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. The Reform Party. Now, a few weeks ago, when we had like the local mayoral elections, I did a video, and I think it was called "Who Are You Going to Vote For, Stuart?" or something like that. And I think I said within that video that, in my opinion, it didn't really matter who you voted for, as long as you gave a complete and utter spanking to the two conventional parties, the Conservatives and Labour, if you're watching this anywhere else in the world. Those two parties are comfortable. They know full well that they will share power between them over one, maybe two, possibly 3 sessions of government, where each 5 years or so a general election comes along and they will swap over or whatever. Now we're right at the end of a 14-year stretch where the Tory party have basically just been taking the piss. We've had a number of prime ministers in place who've not been elected by the electorate. Don't know how that works. Anyway, and now we're looking at potentially a Labour government who are not Labour anymore. They're more of a socialist government. They're certainly not the political party of the working man as they used to be when I was a kid. My dad was a heavy engineer, as I've mentioned before. He worked in a very big, very dangerous factory full of big, dangerous machines, and they were all union men. And because they were all union men, they all voted Labour. It has been too long, in my opinion, that these two parties have had the run of the roost where politics is concerned in this great country. And I've been praying that someone else at some point would come along. Now this has been indicated by my disinterest in voting for many years, more than a decade now, because I have no faith in the system as it stands. Because the first past the post system that we have now will always ensure that either Tory or Labour will get returned to power. And what we actually need is proportional representation, which gives a more fair, as the name suggests, representation to the number of votes that you get as a political party. Therefore you should get more seats. So when our leader, who in my opinion has no interest in this country at all, no love for this country, no interest in its history or its benevolence to the world that we've had in world history and current history, we still take people in, came in, and basically he is just a finance shill for the World Economic Forum, and he basically doesn't really give a hoot what this country turns out to be. And you can just tell by the piss poor performance of his cabinet, certainly over the last 2 years. So when he called this snap election, I think people were taken aback a little bit. I think in one of my previous videos, I think I basically said that it would be advisable, in my opinion, that he left it 12 months, so looking into 2025, before he actually called an election to see whether things would improve, giving him more chance of staying in the big chair in number 10. And then what happened? Nigel Farage decided that he was going to make a comeback. Now, I thought that was a good idea on one major front, really, which is, although Richard Tice seems to be a relatively decent man with relatively decent views regarding this country, except from the fact that he was a big fan of the old, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? And he was supportive of that, which I thought was a little bit distasteful. He wanted to do the best for the country, but he had no personality. He has no push, he has no passion for the top job of a political party. So when Nigel Farage decided that he was going to come out of retirement, I thought that was a very good thing to actually push the Reform Party further up in public recognition. And I never thought it would be any more than that. And I hoped that it would be something similar to the days when I was a kid, where you had the Conservatives, Labour and the Liberals. You had three relatively strong political parties that were all in the mix and all fighting against each other when a general election was coming around. As I've said, now, these days, generally, we know full well it's just going to be Tory, Labour, Labour, Tory, or it's been recently Tory, 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 Tory. So I thought that's brilliant. At least we're going to have three parties. But I don't think that anyone could have even dreamt that the response to the reappearance of the Brexit champion Nigel Farage, regardless what you may think of him, has just been astonishing. I've seen a survey this morning, the latest YouGov kind of survey, and he is now, or Reform now, are above the Tories by about 10 percentage points, which is stunning. Now here's the important bit. In a fortnight, 2 weeks, 14 days, the impact of Nigel Farage coming back has not only pushed said third party into the spotlight, but raised the possibility, and I'm not going to say any more than that, the possibility that we might have an opposition party who cares about this once great, powerful, rich, inventive country. So why the question at the beginning? Do I believe that reform can reform UK politics? Well, I think it's a fairly simple question. The answer's got to be yes, because as we're all aware, regardless of your political alliances, unless you are so biased and politically blind, these days you can't really tell the difference between the Conservatives and Labour. Their policies are very, very similar. When one says something, the other party says something very similar, with a little twist added on, maybe. The only thing that we see, which is a major similarity between the two, is the lies, the complete and utter lies regarding taxation. They brought out manifestos which don't seem to be costed fully. No policies to deal with. I think it's 90 trillion pounds of debt. No real policies to deal with that. So the simple question, going back to it, can reform the political landscape? Well, with simple changes, even the simple changes will change the political landscape if, as it appears to be, Nigel Farage is telling the truth. They've come out with not what's called a manifesto, they're calling it a contract with the electorate. And many moons ago I did my idea, which all councillors and politicians and state senators in America should have a contract of employment. It was ages ago, I can't remember how many years I did it. Go back into my library and have a look, which is basically we as employees with the company, we all have a contract of employment, which means if you don't fulfil your duties, they can, after a warning, sack you. Well, I feel that all MPs should have a contract, and I think that perhaps Reform are going down that route where potentially if they do genuinely believe that the electorate are the power that needs to be obeyed, which we are, then potentially we should be able to say to them, this is not working out. We demand a general election now, or get rid of your power, dissolve government and force an election, that kind of thing. I do believe one of the great shortfalls in current party politics is the lack of love for this country. There is no other word than that. You have to love this country and want the best for this country to enhance this country. And I do believe that that is what Reform and Nigel Farage has above the other two parties, an actual desire to make this country a better place. Now you can call Reform or Nigel Farage racists or fascists if you like. That's your opinion, and in a free country you are entitled to have your opinion. But it's my opinion that in any spending or parliamentary plans, the people who should benefit first and foremost above anybody else are the native peoples and the long settled peoples of these islands, not the peoples who are coming across on the small boats from France. 880 I think it was that came in the other day. We cannot support this. This country is a small island. It only has a certain amount of supplies, if you want to say it like that. Gas, electricity. It only has a certain amount of petrol and diesel and roads and housing and doctors and dentists, and there is no wonder why none of us can get to see anyone if we're ill. 2 weeks hence, if you're lucky, for a doctor's appointment. 6 weeks hence for a dentist appointment if you are writhing in agony with toothache. That's just not the case. This current government have spent £500 million giving it to the French so that their border force can stop the boats coming across. Have they done it? No. Why? They have no interest. They don't want those people there. Send them across the Blighty, let them deal with it. So do I believe that Reform can reform the system? Well, I think the reform of the system has already started solely on the basis of now there is a third credible party in the mix. That is the beginning of the reform of this political circus that we have in this country. And this has happened when an unelected Prime Minister calls a snap election with zero notice. Let me ask you this. Imagine what would have happened had Rishi Sunak done the same, stood in the rain and said, I'm going to call an election in February 2025. Imagine. what Reform and Nigel Farage have achieved in 2 weeks, imagining what they could have achieved in 6 months. People are even talking about the centre-right members of the Conservative Party joining with Reform to make a new centre-right party. A party who loves and respects and wants this country to be better. A country which is not going to allow people coming in with no information about them. We don't know who they are, what they've done, whether they have any criminal records, whether they are potential terrorists or criminals or rapists or whatever. They are going to stop them and send them back, and that's the key thing. So reforming the system, it's already happening, and it feels like it isn't unreasonable to entertain the notion that in just over 2 weeks' time there could potentially be quite a shock in this general election. Now, I am not saying in any way, shape or form that Reform are going to stop Labour winning, because I don't think, apart from an asteroid hitting Labour Party HQ and just wiping out everyone, I can't see how they will not win. But I can see, with the strength of feeling that's in this country at the moment, that Reform could shock absolutely everyone in the similar way as the Brexit vote shocked everyone, even though the media is coming out en masse to sully the reputation of both the party and Nigel Farage personally, saying that they are racists and fascists. I'm quite happy to sit here today and say to you, I would not be completely surprised if the Tories, quite deservedly, get blown out of the water completely, and the vote that would have gone to the Tories will go to Reform. I do feel that confident about it. And I'll say this, I don't vote. I don't vote. Why would you vote with a two-party system? Why would you vote? Why does anybody vote in America, for God's sake? 2 parties. And they're both hateful to each other. At least we don't have that in England or in Britain. Let me say, if we're back to a situation where we have 3 credible parties at the top of the political game in this political circus in the United Kingdom, I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote, and I'm going to vote for Reform, because I've been politically homeless now for more than 10 years. I naively, when I used to vote, I naively thought to myself, it must get better. It must get better. You know, somebody's got to come in who loves this country as much as I do. Something's got to change. And it didn't. It just didn't. So I stopped voting. I've had many arguments with people basically saying to me, well, if you don't vote, you're not entitled to an opinion. My arse. I live in a free country. I can have whatever opinion I like. So I'm coming back. And I'm going to vote. And I'm going to do my little bit to try to put Reform, a political party who seems to echo my political views and my hopes for this country before it's too late, because if it carries on as it is, this country, where we stand at the moment, we've got major cities like London, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, Leeds, Bradford, who are minority white now. That's not the country I grew up in. And these people need to understand that if they want to live here, they live by our rules and our customs and our way of life. They're not living in the Muslim countries they came from. They can't hope that Sharia law is going to be put into place, because that can never happen. That's disrespectful to everything, not least women and their views of women being second-class citizens. That cannot be the case in a first world country. Women fought long and hard for the rights to do anything and everything that a man could do in British society. So yes, I'm coming back to the voting table. I'm going to put my little X in the box for whoever is my reform candidate here. And although I would love Labour and the Tories to get an absolute spanking, I know full well only one of those two will get a spanking, and that will be the Tories. Labour are going to be in number 10. God help us. But maybe, just maybe, reform will cause a tidal wave of disbelief and become a country-loving opposition party and hold the government of the day to task. Anyway, that's it for this one. Thank you very, very much for watching. Please subscribe. I'm trying to get this messages over now. I know we're all over the place where the videos are concerned, but it's all important things that are important to me, and if they're important to me, I can't be on my own. So please subscribe. Let's get me back up to the kind of the 1,000 subscriber mark, and then let's see where it can go from there. The algorithm is all encompassing. Unless I get the numbers and the following, and you watch all these videos and you watch a decent amount of the video, even if you don't make it to the end, the algorithm will not push this video out there, which will allow people to be more educated about the things that are happening in the world. So please give this a thumbs up, share it around, put it on your social media, and press that little red button. It costs nothing. It's totally free. Totally free. And the only thing it will do, it will ensure that you get to see all my videos. If you want to be notified, press the little bell icon and you'll get a notification when another one of these pops up on the old interweb. And hopefully it will push my message out there and get more people coming to the information that I'm putting out. So for now, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully we're going to get some other nice weather throughout the weekend, so I hope you're doing something nice, and we'll be back again soon with something else. Bye bye.